Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Monday, the 11th of May, 2026. I'm Graham Hughes. Welcome to the show. This is Morning Brew. And on Hughes of the World, I'm the Hughes, and this is the world up there. Made of Lego. Hello, everyone. This morning we've got Sarah in the chat. We've got Martin Harrow. We've got Chris C. We've got Billy Kershaw. Gallifreyan Wren is in there. The usual suspects. Leap Shin as well. It's exciting stuff. SG is also in the chat. Hi, SG. Great to have you with us. If Saz is there as well, saying hi, everyone. If you'd like to join our friends in the friendly chat, all you need to do is hit the subscribe button. Don't be a twat. If you want to join the chat, don't be a twat. If you are, we will mute you and boot you. Don't be writing, vote me fuck, vote for reform, vote for Farage. I love Farage. I love stooges for Vladimir Putin, who take massive bribes from foreign, crypto billionaires and living in Thailand, who make their money through, laundering money for the Russians. I love that. Yeah. The Patriots running around putting rags up, halfway up, lampposts to bring down the house prices of an area and sort of, stifle any inward investments, because why would you invest in a place that was covered in tatty rags halfway up a lamppost? But, they walk amongst us. So also Farage wants to get rid of work from home, by the way. He wants to get rid of that, even though in India, the Modi said you've got to work from home because they need to keep down transport costs. But in the UK, you got Farage standing up in front of a bunch of old, retired people who don't fucking work anymore and yet still earn more money every year than you or I for not working and just having the benefit of just happening to be born into a generation that had everything handed to them on a silver platter. But we have to pay 15% APR on our mortgages, did you? 15% on £2.50. Oh no, boo-hoo-hoo. 6% on 300,000 is a lot more than that. Yeah, as a proportion of your income as well, because our wages haven't gone up. But yeah, Farage wants to get rid of work from home. He wants all the old people who don't even work to vote for it. Anyway, me and Phil are going to be talking about what may or may not be in the King's speech on Wednesday, when the King's going to be making. I don't know why I kept saying it was going to be the 17th, because that'll be like a Sunday or something. It's actually, Saturday? Is it next Saturday? It's actually the 13th, so Wednesday the 13th. State opening of Parliament. There's going to be a King's speech, and in it, the King is going to lay out what his government is going to be doing for the next forever. So if you want to join us for that, 1 o'clock today, me and Phil talking about what we think should be in there, what is probably in there, what probably isn't in there, and all that jazz. So please join us for that. Viper Scott is in the chat. Hello, Alistair. I hope you're all right this morning. Billy Kershaw as well, and Hannah Manking Tube. Hi, how you doing? We've also got Sphere Lance as well. If you want to just say hello into the chat, you want to just ask a question. What I'm going to do before we get started talking about Putin and his Victory Day parade, I'm going to set a target that the chaser cannot beat, of 5 super chats over the next hour or so. And if we get that, we will unleash the confetti. So if you want to do that, please, or you want to ask a question, or you want to make a point, that is absolutely 100% going to be read out. I know I read a lot of stuff anyway, so, but I will absolutely do that. Diz says, morning, going. Morning, Diz. Hope you're all right. Breaking news from Gallifreyan Wren. Onions are frying nicely. Oh, I haven't had any breakfast. I normally don't have time to have breakfast before I start these shows, especially if I've got any technical problems. Luckily, didn't have any technical problems today. And the kids are back in school. Well and truly, the exams have started. GCSEs have started now. So if you've got any kids at GCSE age, they'll be, next few weeks. Oh, God. It's going to be crazy. Anyway, is Putin going to nuke Ukraine? No, he doesn't have nuclear weapons. You see, because nuclear weapons require maintenance, a lot of very expensive maintenance to maintain the nuclear weapons, because they degrade over time. Iron law of entropy there. Now, America spends more on upgrading and maintaining its nuclear defense than Russia spent on its entire military. That's the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force. And considering the state of their tanks when they first tried to do a full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, they had a tactical nuke that they could deploy on the battlefield. They Putin's desperate enough, he would have used it. Especially considering, Ukraine gave up all its nuclear weapons because Russia and America guaranteed its borders would remain as they are. But then Russia reneged on that deal, much to the delight of Nigel Farage, who said it was all NATO's fault and the EU's fault that Russia invaded its neighbour. Yeah, it was all our fault. Yeah, we made him. He had no choice. He's only got the biggest country in the world. He had no choice if you think about it. Like when he went into Georgia in 2008 because they were gearing up to join the EU and be part of NATO. And he's like, I'm not having that. And took South Ossetia and Abkhazia, a third of the entire Georgian landmass. Georgia's not that big a country, And basically, he came in, took Scotland and Wales and went, well, I'll have this. I love his excuse. He always says, but there's Russian-speaking people there. Cool. Does that mean we get to invade America and Canada and actually every country in the world, pretty much? We could invade Russia on the grounds that there are people who speak Russian there. There are people who speak English in Russia. In fact, Vladimir Putin's one of them. He doesn't like speaking in English, but he can speak in English. And I think that's a pretext for us just to, invade Moscow, take over the Kremlin. Well, there's English-speaking people here. Or maybe it's a pretext for Mexico to invade southern USA because there's Spanish-speaking people there. California, New Mexico, Nevada, Texas. Fucking have some. Look at the names of the places. San Antonio, Los Angeles, San Francisco. Don't sound very English to me, mate. Just saying. If you're going to use linguistics as a pretext for war. Yeah, I think you've lost before you began. Especially as Ukrainians like to speak Ukrainian. Indeed. Wasn't the same reason Hitler gave when he annexed Austria and the Czech Republic. Yeah, well, it was Czechoslovakia. It's half of Czechoslovakia at the time, wasn't it? Was it the Sudetenland? Was that what he took? Sudetenland. Oh, we need living space. That's what he said. And to be fair to Hitler, I don't like being fair to Hitler. You could argue that, well, Germany's a lot fucking smaller than Russia. Russia's the biggest country in the world. Don't know why it has to be bigger. Have you got enough? Not got enough living space, have you, Mr. Putin? Twat. Anyway, let's talk about this. Let's get into this. Because Putin's Victory Day looked like a goddamn funeral procession. Did anyone see any footage from it from Saturday? Oh my God. Now, you've got to understand that the symbolism of this year's Victory Day matters enormously because it's all about symbolism. It's supposed to be the single biggest propaganda event of the Russian political propaganda calendar, which is every day. Every day is propaganda day in Russia. The stuff that the shit that the Russian people are fed all comes from the state, and they're not even allowed Telegram anymore to even talk to each other, without the state looking over the shoulder going, oh, nice opinion you got there. Shame if it ended with you being sent to a gulag in Siberia. Would you like some Novichok with your sushi? Motherfuckers. Well, it wouldn't be sushi, would it? There, it would just be a potato. Would you like some polonium to go with your mouldy, cold potato? Anyway, Victory Day takes part every year. Takes place on May the 9th, and it's supposed to be the day that celebrates the end of the victory of Russia, or actually the victory of the Soviet Union. But obviously, the Soviet Union was just the Russian Empire by another name. It's like if Britain had called its empire, I don't know, the Commonwealth, back when it was an empire, and went, no, it's not the picture. It's a Commonwealth. We're all being common and wealthy. Well, we're absolutely land blasting, stealing, raping, pillaging all over the world and enslaving. But yeah, there's a foundation myth of modern Russia. Not Russia. Putinism. The foundation myth of modern Putinism, which shows Russia as the eternal liberator, a military superpower, a defender of civilization against Nazism. And don't forget, they accused Volodymyr Zelensky of being a Nazi, the president of Ukraine, and also the prime minister of Ukraine as well, of being a Nazi. That's where we have to go. We have to go and save the Russian-speaking people of Ukraine from the Nazis. The fact that Zelensky and his prime minister at the time were both Jewish. I mean, Nazis. Look, I've got this photoshopped image of Nazis in Kyiv. Putin has spent years wrapping himself in the legacy of Soviet victory in World War II. But this year's parade wasn't an exhibition of strength. It was an exhibition of weakness, fear, insecurity. There was no tank spectacle because, like, there were no tanks. There's no tanks left. They've been destroyed. They're all gone. Like the Ukrainians took them all out in the same way they took out the Black Sea Fleet without a navy. Russia reportedly avoided mass deployment of armor, as they call it, in staging areas around Moscow because of fear of Ukrainian drone strikes. And just think about that for a minute. A nuclear superpower cannot confidently display its own military hardware in its own capital because it fears remote control explosives from a country that it expected to conquer in 3 days. Here we are over 4 years later, and they're still nowhere near conquering it. Internet shutdowns in Moscow and St. Petersburg that have been, this was in the build-up of Victory Day, but it's still going on now. These were imposed for security reasons, so people couldn't text each other to say that they weren't going to the parade. Air defense has been redeployed to major cities, so rather than defending, like, I don't know, oil rigs and oil refineries and missile depots and air bases, has been deployed for cities. Because don't forget, at the moment, Ukraine's got the capability to strike drones to 70%. I think it's 2,000 kilometers from the front lines they can get to within Russia now, which comprises 70% of the Russian population can be targeted by Ukrainian drones. This didn't need to happen. This is not a war of Ukrainian aggression by any shape or in any shape or form, despite what the tankies and the right-wingers march in lockstep in adoration of Vladimir Putin and all its imperialistic, capitalist, oligarchical, oil state, fucking necrocracy and narcocracy and cacocracy and all the fucking shitocracies that are out there that he runs. Oh, I love it that his henchmen deal drugs into Europe and destroy lives. I love it that his henchmen go into Ukraine and just kill people. I love it that his henchmen that he buys from Northern Africa and North Korea. I love that they come into Europe and rape and torture civilians and kidnap children. I love that, say the tankies. Fucking weirdos. Tankies, by the way, if you don't know, are people who are on the left but support anything that Russia does. All of Russia's imperialistic all of Russia's imperialistic ideas, the horrific, brutal imperialism. It's okay if Russia does it. If we do it or the US does it, heaven forfend. Which I'm not defending empire building or imperialism. I do not think that the Empire were the good guys in Star Wars. I just don't think they were. I don't know. Call me naive. This channel has more tanks than Putin, says Californian Ren. It does indeed. It's got a little squeaky tank. There it is. Hello, squeaky tank. Oh. I used to get that out the other day. I told some really bad jokes. Yeah, there we go. That's our one tank. One tank more than Putin. Putin no tanks. That's what they call him. Vladimir no tanks. It's like a Johnny no stars. Remember when they used to have the star rating and of how good the person serving you was in McDonald's, and they had to get rid of it because people getting called Johnny no stars. Yeah, well, Vladdy no tanks. Should we call Vladdy no tanks. Calling them tankies is a bit ironic though, isn't it? Yeah. Remind me again, Ukraine is landlocked, has zero navy, and they still managed to take out Russia's navy. Ukraine's not landlocked. It's obviously got access to the Black Sea, but yeah, it doesn't have a navy. it doesn't have a navy. The only tanks that Russia still has are squeaky tanks that go along the bottom. Anyway, so Russia is behaving now like a country under siege. Like, if you think about it, they're not going to have a military parade in Kyiv, are they? Because, like, first of all, why would they? But secondly, because of the threat from Russia dropping bombs on them or firing missiles at them or sending drones to blow up. Despite this war of aggression from Moscow, supposedly being far away and fully under control, and not even a war, as this is the thing that Trump has picked up off in America. He's got, I'm allowed to deploy troops for 6 weeks before asking Parliament or Congress, as they call it over there, permission. But it's all right because it's not actually a war. It's just a special military invasion or something. Special military operation. Yeah. So they're the ones who are, they're the ones who got this special military operation that's far away and fully under control, and yet they can't have a fucking march. They can't have a parade through Moscow. And hats off to Volodymyr Zelensky for absolutely trolling the Russians masterfully. Just before Saturday, he put out a post permitting the parade to proceed. That's more than just banter, okay? That is more. That is so much more than getting your digs in first. It reinforced the idea that Ukraine now has the ability to threaten Russia deep inside its own territory, and Putin's aura depends on this idea of invulnerability, and mockery is poison to authoritarian strongmen. It is the way you defeat them. You've got to mock them. You've got to make fun of them. You've got to make them look absolutely ridiculous. From Mussolini with all his fucking medals to Hitler and his high. Fuck. There you go. Okay, the sound's back on. Jesus Christ. Oh, one of those fucking days today. Right. Where was I? I don't know. I was talking about Putin, wasn't I? Yeah, I know. Sound is back. Sound is back. I didn't turn the sound off before I ended the task on OBS. I didn't turn the sound off. But when it came back on, the sound had automatically turned off because it remembered its last good, startup in which the sound is automatically muted in case you hear me coughing and going 1 2 1 2 before the show. Anyway, yeah, fuck, what a comeback. Graham does not like Mondays. Tell me why. I want to shoot the whole day down. I just do. Anyway, so where were we? We were talking about Russia and how they're not doing so well at the moment. So let's talk about the momentum sort of slipping away from Russia, right? For much of the war, Russia has had advantages in manpower, artillery, missile production, the advantage in sheer willingness to absorb insane amount of casualties. You're talking about a 5-to-1 ratio for Russians compared with Ukrainian injuries, and an even higher ratio for deaths amongst the Russian military. And but Ukraine has adapted so fast. Necessity being the mother of invention, and obviously war propels R&D like you would not believe. We saw this in World War II, where we got things from World War II like the jet engine, rocket propulsion, the radar, the sonar, stuff that we that is part and parcel of everyday modern warfare, came about during encryption, the Enigma machine, and how we encrypt messages across military command. Ukraine adapted, it evolves, and a lot of people in the West absolutely underestimated Ukrainian innovation. A lot of people in the East, especially Vladimir Putin and his goons in the Kremlin, they also underestimated Ukrainian innovation. And Ukraine evolved from defensive measures into a highly decentralized drone warfare machine, and they've effectively turned cheap consumer style technology into industrial scale battlefield devastation. If you have a drone that costs a few £100 to put in the air and send over to Russia, and they're spending $3 million fucking dollars, whatever, on a rocket to shoot it down, you've got this asymmetric warfare going on, in which, yeah, the Ukrainians have got the upper hand. And I mean, Russia's spring offensive appears to have stalled, and that's hugely important because Putin needed to make, I'll come to that in a moment, but Putin needs to make visible gains in 2026, and instead, territorial advances have slowed dramatically, and some areas have reported net Russian losses. They've lost over 100 kilometers of territory in the last 2 months. And that changes morale on both sides, because war are, if nothing else, psychological. Once soldiers stop believing that victory is inevitable, collapse can accelerate quickly. It'll be like in the Hemingway book, The Sun Also Rises, where they talk about how the guy went bankrupt, and he said slowly at first and then all at once, or something like that. It's been a long time since I've read Hemingway. God, it's depressing. It's beautifully written, but God, it's depressing. Especially in authoritarian systems built on inevitability and fear. That inevitability of Russian success on the battlefield is no longer there. And let's not forget, this. I know the Soviet Union collapsed; it was death by 1,000 cuts. But one of the biggest cuts was the fact that they failed in Afghanistan. Soviet invasion of Afghanistan at the end of the 70s led to a 10-year fucking morass that they got stuck into. Funny that would happen in Afghanistan. It never happened before in history, except in all those, the Anglo-Afghan wars, which, England kind of lost. Britain kind of lost those wars, But they certainly didn't achieve their objectives, and in some cases they just got fucking massacred, thousands of them. Breaking news: the business secretary Peter Carl said in a interview this morning that Starmer is not going to rip up his red lines when it comes to the EU. Well, I mean, that remains to be seen in the King's Speech, because I think we're going to see. Well, you see, the thing is, all they said was, I'm not going to join the customs union, and we're not going to join the single market. They didn't say they couldn't join parts of it. Yeah, I think they'll use a little bit of semantics to get around this one. But let's see what's in the King's Speech. We'll be talking about that at 1:00, me and Phil. But let's get back to poor old Putin. I don't know why I'm saying poor old Putin. He is old. He's not poor. Fucking hell, he's the richest man on earth. But these drones, these first-person view drones, have changed warfare forever. They're cheap, fast, precise, deployable, disposable, terrifying. They're not built by giant billion-dollar weapons systems. They're built. You got people, civilians in Ukraine, 3D printing parts for these drones in their kitchens. A drone costing a few £100 can destroy tanks, artillery, logistics vehicles, planes, troop concentrations. The battlefield has opened up in a way that it was never opened just a few years ago. Traditional warfare depended on concealment and movement. Now drones see fucking everything. Thermal imaging, AI targeting. They don't even need to have an operator. That was a weird way of saying operator, wasn't it? They don't even need an operator. And therefore, even moving for these Russian troops, well, they're not always Russian, are they? For these Russian mercenaries from all around the world working for Russia, who may not be from Russia, movement itself becomes like deadly. And all the Ukrainians have to do at this point is just sit there and let the Russians come to them, because the Russians have got to attack. They've got to take more land. That's why they're there. They can't just consolidate what they've got already. And the Ukrainians are quite fucking happy just to sit back and when the Russians come towards them, deploy the drones, take them out. And there's become a kill zone concept now with these huge areas behind the front line known as drone kill zones, where supply convoys become vulnerable, medical evacuation becomes almost impossible. Not that the Russians gave a fuck about that. They would always leave their injured soldiers on the battlefield to bleed out and die because they life is cheap for the Russian top brass. But command posts, fuel depots, and this asymmetry here where Russia's trying to attack, but Ukraine can literally just sit there, and every time anyone comes anywhere near, or there's a supply chain trying to come in to build up stuff so that the Russians can do a push, can try and push forward. They're just throwing in these really cheap drones. They can send hundreds of them. Doesn't matter. They only cost a few £100 each. See you later. Russia is, like I say, it's the side that is attempting these large scale offences, and many of them they're being taken out before they can even start because the weapons, the ammo, the food is not getting to the front lines, and the logistics of modern war are being blown up systematically by the Ukrainians, and. To go back to Russian casualties, maybe they'll start dragging their injured soldiers off the battlefield because their casualties are becoming unsustainable. I mean, absolutely horrific casualty rates, around 35,000 losses per month, according to estimates. Nearly 1.4 million people killed or seriously wounded since the invasion began. And when I say seriously wounded, I mean if they do survive, they're going to be incapacitated for life. So they may as well be taken off the board. They're not going to go back into battle like Douglas fucking Bader anytime soon. And even allowing for uncertainty about the numbers, because obviously Russia's not publishing this, the scale is catastrophic. The dead to wounded ratio is especially grim. And modern warfare usually produces more wounded than dead, because they get trauma medicine, rapid treatment, evacuation. But the drones change that because wounded soldiers, not that Russia gave a fuck about wounded soldiers anyway, as I keep saying, but they often cannot be rescued. Because if anyone comes to try and get them, just another drone comes and takes them out. And also, military culture in Russia has worsened that problem. A long-standing reputation for treating soldiers as expendable, meat to be fed into the grinder, with poor evacuation standards, corruption in logistics and medical systems. I was going to say about the nuclear weapons, you see how much corruption there is in Russian. Like, there's about 19 people who run Russia, and they're all fucking multi-billionaires. Well, Putin might well be a trillionaire. We don't know. We just don't know. But everyone else lives in shit. Everyone else lives in shit and poverty and shit. Unless they're a friend of one of these 19 who can get money off them to go on holiday somewhere. You've got just large-scale corruption, absolutely embedded into the system. And again, we're going to draw historic parallels. This is one of the reasons why the Soviet Union collapsed, along with the humiliation of what happened in Afghanistan in the 80s. You also had, that was Russia or Soviet Union at its height of its powers in the 80s. It had a space program. It had nuclear weapons. It had more nukes than any other country in the world. In fact, I think it had more nukes at one point than every other country in the world put together had nukes. And yet it couldn't beat a bunch of goat herders sitting on the back of fucking, riding horses with no saddle with an AK-47 in the badlands of Afghanistan. It was humiliating. But the other thing, a huge problem with the Soviet Union, and one of the reasons why communism really does have a problem working for humans. It might work for, ants, but for humans, there's always going to be greed, and therefore there's always going to be corruption. And there's no way to get around it. There's no way to get around it in a top-down state situation where you've got 200 million people, all with their own agendas essentially, and the only way to make some money is by cheating the system. The only way to just keep your head above water is by cheating the system. I think it was called BAT, B-H-A-T. I think that's the name. It was an elaborate system of backhanders between people who ran the factories and people who owned the nuclear power stations and people who looked after the nuclear weapons, etc., etc., etc. The corruption off the scale, and still that is the case in modern Russia. The corruption is off the scale, with Putin being the corruptor in chief, the spider in the middle of the web. And it's one other reason why their nuclear weapons stockpile are not being maintained, because people are being paid to maintain things in the military, and they're going, "Oh, thanks for that." And they'll say, "You, see that missile? Yeah, it needs a new paint job. Here you go." And they hand them a tin of paint from B&Q. "Okay, I'll paint it. There you go, look, it's been upgraded. I'll put a new lick of paint on it." And then he's off for a holiday in the Algarve or something. Ms. Paula Thomas, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. The Ukrainian figures for Russian casualties are based only on death, stroke, injuries observed by a drone, so it should be taken as minimum figures. Yeah. But even if we took them with a pinch of salt in that, like, oh, maybe they're exaggerating. Maybe it's not that bad. It's still pretty bad. It's still worse than anything that Russia has had to deal with since World War II in terms of casualties. It is off the fucking chart. 1.4 million soldiers dead or seriously wounded, enough to take them off the battlefield and probably need assistance for the rest of their life. And this, the human wave tactics, which was still being used now. I mean, less, but than it was at the start of the war. But I mean, it's still being used. So you've got poor evacuation standards, you've got corruption in logistics and medical systems, you've got these human wave tactics still being used. And Putin's strategy, it relied very much on insulating ordinary Russians from the war. It didn't bring in a draft to make sure every Russian had to go and fight in the war, unlike in Ukraine, where if you are, a male and you're between the age of 18 and 40, you've got to spend time on the front line. He instead used prisoners, poor rural recruits who probably were illiterate and couldn't type on the social media apps what was happening to them. Ethnic minorities across Russia, which is particularly horrific. Quick, hide behind the black guy. Yeah, that's been a tried and tested tactic, and not even people from ethnic minorities from within Russia, but also people from ethnic minorities. People from other countries, might not be the minority in the country they're from, but they certainly are within the Russian army. Mercenaries from North Africa, contract soldiers from North Korea. Thousands of North Koreans have died in this war so far. All while your Muscovites can carry on shopping in their shopping malls and buying a McDonald's, which isn't called McDonald's anymore. They changed the name to like McDowell's or something, but it's still McDonald's. And you don't buy a pair of Nikes, you buy a pair of bikes. But eventually, death is a big stone in a pond. It makes ripples go off in all directions, and you don't have to die yourself to be affected by death. And as death touches more people, and somebody knows, friend of a friend, then it becomes a cousin, a nephew, an auntie, an uncle. Grief spreads, and then what you get? Cynicism, which is going to lead to Putin. How could I make that mistake? Going to lead to Putin's downfall. And let's not forget, Ukraine's drone industry is now a strategic advantage, because Ukraine has become one of the most important innovative military tech societies on planet Earth. That this was a necessary forced adaptation, forced by Russia. But what Ukraine combined is civilian tech culture, engineering talent, battlefield urgency, and decentralized innovation. It encouraged decentralized innovation. This has led to Ukraine scaling production rapidly with long-range drones, autonomous drones, fiber-optic drones that are resistant to jamming, and interceptor drones. They're getting very, very good at intercepting drones coming in from Russia. Russia had initially had an edge when it comes to drone systems, but Ukrainian innovation appears to have overtaken them in several areas, and even Russian military bloggers are openly complaining about it. Russian logistics are now under constant pressure, with ammunition dumps being hit, fuel depots being hit, refineries, oil refineries being hit, rail infrastructure threatened, and air bases deep inside Russia being attacked. There was the audacious attack last year when they paid a Russian to drive a lorry. Didn't know what was in the lorry. To drive a lorry to a military air base. Well, this happened across Russia actually. It's several military air bases, but we have footage of one of these where the roof of the container on the back of the lorry opened, and then all these drones swarmed out of it and destroyed millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of Russian Air Force air defense kit and planes and stuff. The psychological impact of all this matters as much as the physical destruction. The Russians are now acutely aware that nowhere feels particularly safe anymore, and that changes the public perception of the war. And although Russia has survived sanctions better than many expected, the Russian economy didn't instantly collapse. Oil exports continued. Obviously, it's made a big fucking windfall thanks to Trump's fucking invasion of bombing war in Iran. China and India kept buying energy. Sanctions evasion networks were deployed, like using cryptocurrency for people like Christopher Holborn, who has a 12% stake in Tether, which is a crypto stable coin which allows Russia to buy and sell things, evading the sanctions that were otherwise put on it. Christopher Holborn, who's a multi-billionaire, he managed to make all that money, and then what he's done is he's given it, a lot of it, to Vladimir Farage in this country, a disgusting, horrible, soggy-faced man who is a fucking Nazi, a racist, a bigot, a homophobe, a transphobe, just the worst, just the absolute worst of all of us. And yet people are like, well, maybe some of those things where it's like, they're like, well, I might not be a looker, but at least I don't look like that. Maybe they'll think like I may be evil, but I'm not as evil as that, and that's why they vote for him. I don't know, because you got to be pretty fucking evil to take Russian blood money in order to, go into politics and take out the cryptocurrency. This is what they talked about. They're going to deregulate cryptocurrency after being given 22 million all in all from a crypto billionaire who lives in Thailand. Anyway, so I always kind of get a bit antsy about like these daft. Times Radio is awful for this, but there's other videos that you get on YouTube where it's like, Putin is finished, Putin is dying, Putin. It's the same with Trump. You get these. Some people might like it, but I really get to my goat when it's like Trump near death experience, and I'm like, oh my god, Trump's nearly dead. Cool, I'll click on that, and it turns out that he said a word wrong, or he stumbled climbing up the stairs onto his plane. It kind of annoys me. Russia is collapsing. Russian economy is collapsing. Putin is going to die tomorrow. So I'm not talking about that, right? I'm not trying to be sensationalist just for clicks, right? I'm not interested in that. That's not what our part of the internet is all about. This little, corner of the internet that we carved out for ourselves. I'm not into blowing smoke up your asses because that's not me, right? I'm not talking about that, but the survival of the Russian economy is not a success, Russia has become increasingly isolated, militarized, and dependent on wartime spending, and that creates long-term fragility. You've got the neglect of infrastructure, massive military spending, crowds out any kind of civilian investment. So you're talking about roads, healthcare, utilities, regional development, stuff over time. Stuff that will suffer over time because the money's just not being spent on it. The money's being spent on this war. You've got inflation rising, you've got taxation rising, war economies sort of distort everything. Labour shortages worsen. A lot of skilled workers have left. Productivity has suffered. And you got asset seizure and the elite panic. The major redistribution of the wealth is underway, and businesses increasingly are vulnerable to state confiscation. We got, the loyalists have been rewarded in the past, but now there's no more money to reward them, and independent centers of power have been weakened, and dictatorships depend on an elite buy-in. Oligarchs don't need democracy. They can use a version of democracy which isn't very democratic, but what they need more than anything is predictability. They need a goal. They need something for the Russian people to strive for, a future that they can believe in. And Putin is increasingly offering chaos instead. And this is huge. This is massive. This is the point where things might change. And it's not necessarily just to do with military hardware and who's blown up what and all that kind of stuff. It's psychological. And Putin may be losing the future. And I'm going to come on to this in a moment. I'm just going to read some of your messages. Remember, though, Trump has all the cards. Sadly for him, they're Uno cards. Yeah, Trump has all the cards. Unfortunately, we're playing chess. Unfortunately for him. Can't even meme. Did you see the Trump Uno card debacle? Lol, they can't even meme in a funny way. Oh, God. The only Uno cards he's holding is reverse and Mr. Turn cards. The Russians have spent their special forces on this war, and they have been decimated. I guess experience is nothing when a drone turns up. Yeah, special forces gone. Good point. I do love a game of Uno. If you ever stay on my island in Bocas del Toro, if you want to, there's Uno there. And I've also got a boat now. I've got a new boat. I'm really excited about my new boat. It's cool. Got a new boat. It's a little dugout canoe called the Kayuku, and I've got a couple of paddles for it, so you can paddle around the island. It'll take you about a day. Not because my island's that big, it's just that it's attached to a massive mangrove forest which stretches out to the south a long, long way. So, yeah. Now, it'll take you a few hours. It will take you a day. How come it's not politics social anymore? Asks Gareth. Because I don't want to just talk about politics. Simple as that. I want to do more travel stuff. Last month, I recorded a podcast with Guinness World Records, and they've got 14.1 million subscribers. And I thought, well, if people might come and check out my channel, and they don't want to be bombarded with lefty Liverpudlian laments about the state of politics around the world. So, yeah, I changed it because I was thinking of doing this for a long time, because I did have, I was going to have like Graham Hughes Politics, Graham Hughes Presents, Graham Hughes Travels as Graham Hughes Travel as 3 different channels, but I decided I'm going to consolidate it all onto the one channel, because on this channel I get to do live stuff. I've opened up all the achievements that you need to be able to do extra stuff on YouTube, and it's set up for making money, so people can give me super chats we can't do on my other channels because they're not big enough to get super chats. So yeah, it's just I'm hoping to do a lot more travel stuff on here, put a lot of my travel videos and make it make sense, because otherwise it's all politics. Why are you talking, why are you talking about travel, Graham? Or pop culture, talking about movies, which I fucking love and been obsessed with, talking about music and books and just other stuff other than politics. So that's why I've changed it to Hughes the World, because yeah, I want to try and pivot a little bit, and maybe if a couple of the 14 million people who subscribe to the Guinness World Records YouTube page come over here, they might get a little bit more of a friendlier welcome than just me going off on one about how much of a twat Farage is, or how much of a twat Putin is, or how much of a twat Netanyahu or Trump is. The 4 pony men of the apocalypse. Hey, SG, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. And good news, J.K. Rowling is now represented by transgender Tamil immigrant in the Scottish Parliament. Love this. Oh my God, really? Oh, yay! That is absolutely awesome. There's been a transgender person going into the Scottish Parliament. That is exciting, and that is awesome. I'm really glad about that. That is absolutely fantastic news. Thank you for the super chat as well, SG. Really appreciate that. And also, Martin Harrow, thank you for reasons. £5 super chat. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Martin Harrow. That's really cool. It is really nice. I'm hoping to launch my channel in June, be about motorsport marshals. You're all welcome. By the way, there will be no politics. Cool, Gareth. My brother is a motorsport marshal. So yeah, he'll probably he'll probably tune in. So let me know the deets when you do that. Sheffield Steve says, never mind Tales from the Crypt. I know Burke must have opened up the trapdoor again. Yes, I remember. Stay away from the trapdoor because there's something down there. My cousin used to have trapdoor through the trapdoor, whatever it's called, on her Commodore 64. Great days. For the quote from Watchmen yesterday. Oh, thank you, Ryan Burke. Glad we got another Watchmen fan in the house, which is kind of cool. I met Dave Gibbons once. It was really nice. He signed I've got a Making of the Watchmen book over there, and he signed my book. And I had time to ask him a question. I said, "What was the one thing where you wish you illustrated it? You wish you had done you wish you'd done the artwork for it, but you turned it down, and then you realised you should have probably taken it." And he said, "Red Sun." It's Superman, but what if Superman was landed in Soviet Russia? And he said he just didn't get it. But then when it came out, he was like, "Fuck, I wish I had illustrated this." But yeah, lovely guy. Lovely guy. Viper Scott, woohoo! £2 super chat, which means thank you, Viper Scott. It means that we can set off the confetti. Yay! Russia's doing shit! Yay! Putin's gonna die! Thanks very much, everyone, for the super chats there. Coming in thick and fast. Like a stupid person on a rocket. Okay, so we were just talking about where were we? Putin. Okay, this is important. So there was an article in The Economist that a friend of mine shared with me this morning, and I love this. This is great journalism, and it pisses me off that all the bullshit, all the propaganda, all the shit memes and the AI slop is all free. Whereas if you want the truth, you've got to get behind a paywall, But he gave me a bunk over the paywall because he gave me a gift article. But this is a really interesting observation that Russian insiders are increasingly referring to the special military operation as his war, rather than our war. And that's a small linguistic shift, just a few letters, but it matters enormously because it shows that that the war is being pinned on Putin, which is brilliant because it means that they are envisaging a future where they're not at war anymore because there's no Putin, because it's his war, not theirs. As soon as they get rid of Putin, the war is over. People can come home. Things can go back to normal. Authoritarian systems survive through collective participation. Once the elites psychologically detach themselves, the regime becomes isolated because no one wants responsibility for a failure. They're seeing it as a failure, hence this small change in the grammar from our war to his war. Putin's system no longer offers a vision. Early Putinism sold stability, rising living standards, restored national pride after the shame and humiliation of the downfall of the Soviet Union. But now it's all about censorship, repression, sacrifice, and endless war. And endless war can work in a closed system, but Russia's not a closed system. They do have access to the internet and the rest of the world, and one way or another. And repression without purpose eventually fails. If you can say, well, it's worth it because, and you can give a reason, it's worth even leaving the EU and losing all this money and not having enough money to look after our sick and elderly, and not have enough money to restore our trains and do up our energy systems. We don't have enough money, but it's worth it for sovereignty. Something nebulous, something bullshit, but it's worth it at the end because I've got this carrot that I'm holding for you, the magic invisible carrot. But when that carrot disappears and people are like, what are we actually doing this for? And you can't still deploy the same rhetorical bullshit that we'll have sovereignty. We'll be able to make our own decisions. We'll be able to take back control. You find out pretty quickly that fear can maintain control temporarily, but people still need hope. They need direction. They need meaning in their lives. And Putin, I keep making that mistake, is increasingly only offering what? Endurance. And Russia appears trapped, not just to us on the outside who are kind of like pointing and laughing, but to the Russian people themselves. They feel trapped. The escalation in this war has worsened the economic damage that was already there as a result of the first invasion in 2014, when Russia invaded the Crimean Peninsula and the east of Ukraine, the Donbass region. Any kind of escalation is just going to worsen the economic damage. Any kind of retreat is going to damage the legitimacy of the regime. Endless war drains society, not just economically, but psychologically. And negotiation looks weak. I mean, there's a move apparently in chess called a zugzwang. I love that word, zugzwang, which means it's a move. It's when you're in a situation in chess when every move that you could possibly make is going to cost you. Every move that you could possibly make is a bad move. And I want to also say as well, the law of unintended consequences. Russia has for years been undermining the rules-based order of the world. They have successfully, through Trump, destroyed the WTO and power of the WTO. So that was negotiating between different parties around the world on things like the fairness of trade, international trade. That's lost all its power. They've also made it so that the G7, the G20, they've undermined OPEC Plus, they've undermined the COP summits, they've undermined the UN. The UN is the big one. The UN has been systematically undermined by Russia and therefore its proxy America for years now. And in the undermining of it, and Trump declaring the border fucking peace or whatever he's calling it, $1 billion to buy into his border fucking peace, right? And then a month later he declares war on Iran. Good peace there, good peacemaking, dickhead, Trump. But if you undermine, and they've done it with FIFA as well, there's so many things that you can point to where there's an international rules-based organization that has been in some way undermined by Russia. Because Russia cheated, Russia didn't play by the rules, Russia pushed every single little loophole that it could find to fuck with stuff. Think about how it's treated the Olympics, like, they've doped all of their athletes, that cheated as much as they could possibly get away with. But cheating only works when everyone else is playing by the rules. But because other countries are not playing by the rules anymore, Russia's permanent seat on the Security Council of the UN is worth a lot less than it was. So, ironically, by Russia encouraging other countries to say, oh, fuck rule-based fucking international order, fuck this shit, they fuck themselves. Because you can only cheat and win if no one else is fucking cheating. If everyone's cheating, you've got to cheat the hardest, which is usually quite difficult if you're not a particularly rich country. And Russia is not a particularly rich country, ladies and gentlemen. I keep pointing this out to people. I'm like, Russia will come and they'll drop nuclear bombs on Shrewsbury. No, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that because they don't have any fucking nuclear bombs that work. And if they had the money to do that kind of stuff, they would have fucking done it by now. They would have at least deployed something nuclear in Ukraine, and they haven't because they haven't got it. Where are they going to launch it from? These missile silos were not maintained. The constant threat, the Russian nuclear submarines, they're fucked. They're absolutely fucked. We know where they are all the time. They're like, we're sneaking below enemy sonar. But we're following them everywhere. No, they don't stand a chance. They do not stand a chance. Faulkner, I pay to call you twat. You're totally warm as toast, says says David Faulkner. Thank you very much for that from Hong Kong. Was that automatically translated from Cantonese? But that's okay. If you want to pay to call me a twat, you're very welcome to do so. Are you covering Starmer's 10 a.m. speech? Yes, I was going to go over there at 10 o'clock But yeah, we'll do that in a moment. But first of all, we're going to, because he might be a bit late, so we'll see how he is getting on. Oh, what is happening here? Oh, sorry. What is going on here? I don't like this. We will cover his speech as he makes it. I've got that ready to go on my other screen. Just give me one moment, because I want to just just do something here. Sorry, everyone. I will get this sorted. Right, that is sorted. That is ready. I'll jump over there when I see him coming on the stage. Nukes go off. No, not like that. I mean, they have a shelf life, which means that there is a period in its lifespan when using it becomes very tempting. Yeah, but that lifespan is gone. Russia has done no nuclear tests since the early 90s. It's over 30 years they've done no nuclear tests, and there's no way that their current nuclear stockpile can do fuck all. I predict a nothing burger, says Diz. Yeah, me too. He's absolutely. If he resigns, I'll be very surprised. I'm not going to say I'm going to eat my hat, because there is an outside chance that he might resign, but I really hope that he doesn't, because it does hand Putin. Sorry, I keep saying that. It does hand Vladimir Farage a large fucking win. Anyway, look. I want to just put an important caveat on this before I talk about, before we go over to see what Starmer's got to say. It's very important that we don't become complacent in this. Russia still has enormous resources. It still has huge manpower reserves. It still has a large industrial capacity. And while I don't think it has any nuclear weapons that it can use, it still has the sort of threat of nuclear weapons, because nobody really knows. Authoritarian systems can survive during astonishing levels of dysfunction. Just have a look at what happened in Zimbabwe, or what happened in Zaire, or what's happened in Italy during Mussolini's reign of terror. The history proves this repeatedly. Regimes often appear stable until suddenly they're not. But not collapsing tomorrow doesn't necessarily mean they're in the rudest of health. And Putin can still escalate. He has not mobilized Russians, or everyday Russians. He might still do that. He might order more attacks on civilians and civilian infrastructure, like he did during the winter, where millions of Ukrainians were left without power in the middle of winter. He might, start new offences. Ukraine still faces immense challenges. Russia still holds 1/5 of Ukrainian territory. And the ammunition demand, it still remains huge. Air defense is still absolutely critical, and the human cost for Ukraine it remains horrific. It absolutely remains horrific. But to conclude, I just want to say this war, this special 3-day military operation that's gone on for longer than Russia was involved in World War I and World War II. Putin launched this invasion thinking that Ukraine would collapse quickly. He could install a puppet leader back into the president's palace in Kyiv, and he thought that NATO would fracture. He thought that Europe would panic and Russia would be feared and respected once again. And instead, Ukraine survived. NATO expanded. Europe rearmed. Russia has become more dependent on China and India than ever before. Hundreds of thousands, over 1.4 million Russians have died, or Russian soldiers have died or have been maimed. Russia's economy has become warped around war production. The prestige of Russia has collapsed to such a point that the neighbouring Ukraine, that they used to laugh at as a backwater of country yokels that should be part of Russia, is giving permission for Russia to hold a fucking military fucking parade. Imagine Iran giving America permission for Trump to get his squeaky tank out. And the deepest irony of this is Putin invaded Ukraine to restore Russian greatness, but ultimately he may be remembered as the man who exhausted Russia militarily, economically, and morally. Yeah, and Ukraine's resistance is what's going to matter historically, regardless of what happens next. Because Ukraine has shattered the myth that authoritarian militarism is unstoppable. in Russia, Russian militarism, a country Putin dismissed as weak and artificial, has fought back with astonishing resilience and innovation. And support for Ukraine, let's be very clear here, does not require romanticizing war. War is hell. War is horror. War is mutilation. War is torture. War is trauma. But if a dictatorship invades a sovereign country and attempts to erase its identity by force, failure for that dictatorship to achieve its goals is good, is a good for the world. Putin chose this war. Ukraine did not invade Russia. Ukraine did not threaten Moscow. Ukraine did not force this catastrophe. The fucking Kremlin did. Vladimir Putin did. And after years of destruction and death and imperial delusion, Russia increasingly looks like a country that is systematically paying the price for one man's obsession with the past, with the glorious past of Russia, the glorious past of Moscow, his obsession with empire and his obsession with rule by repression. And if there's any time for it to blow up in his face, I'm thinking sometime this year. And these dominoes might fall very, very quickly. You'll be looking at Putin getting his arse handed to him, maybe getting chucked out of a window. You'll be looking at the AI bubble popping, which will destroy the economy in America. Well, not destroy it, but it will fuck the economy in America like you would not believe. That's going to leave Trump in a fucking precarious situation, despite his gerrymandering efforts to try and make it so, split America into red states and blue states across the board. It won't matter. It will not matter if we are we are if the future actually shapes into what I kind of expected to at this moment in time. Russia has done its dash. Putin has done his dash. And I think that historians of the future will look back to now, May 2026, and say, at the point in which his generals, military bloggers, the elites started referring to the Russia's special military operation as Putin's war, his war was the moment that the house of cards came crumbling down. And like, your man from The Sun Also Rises, I think it'll, happen gradually and then suddenly. And things can change very, very quickly. And whatever is built in the after the collapse of the Russian Empire, whatever's built in its place has to be better than what we're living through right now. Cheeky squeaky tank could be rhyming slang for a cheeky bank, like a bank where people are cheeky, or a cheeky crank, like someone who's really cranky, or yank. Oh, it could be being American, like septic. Yeah. Oh, you meant something else, obviously. I'm off to have a squeaky tank, love. Would you like to join me? Freckle Puny, Russia picked the wrong enemy. Ukraine has established aviation and weapons manufacturing capacity. Similarly, Iran can hit back due to being able to construct drones and missiles. Yeah. It picked a fight with the wrong person. The wrong person at the wrong time. So let's see. Keir Starmer is currently coming onto the stage. By the looks of things, people are taking pictures. Oh, there's a woman. They're clapping. They're clapping a woman. If you want to see what's going on, they're clapping. He's not making a speech. There's a woman making a speech, or she was making a speech, and now they're all just sitting together. I don't think he's going to announce his resignation. I think if he was, he'll be outside number 10. Starmer's speech is set to last 20 minutes, with 40 minutes dedicate to answering questions from the press. Oh God. Okay, I'll watch a little bit of it. If I get bored, I'll leave, and we'll look at the papers instead. Because there's some juicy stuff in the papers today that is making me very happy. The panic on the covers of some of the papers today is a wonderful thing to behold. So this lady is speaking at the moment. So obviously that's nice. That's nice for her, whoever she is. Camera just got knocked. Get a better tripod. Get a more fucking solid tripod. A little bit of vibration protection. I once filmed a gig for China Crisis, the band, and I stupidly set up a static camera on the stage with the band, right? And I set it up when when they were just rehearsing and stuff. I didn't quite realise when they were doing the sound check. Sorry, I didn't quite realise that every time the drummer hit the bass drum, the whole camera would shake. So I got the footage back. I didn't have anyone checking the camera. I just set it up on a tripod because I was off doing like handheld camera, and got the footage back. And I was like, oh, jeez. Learned not to do that again. Anyway, Ms. Paula Thomas, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. In contrast to Ukraine, the US's weapon stockpiles are now dangerously low, according to a member of Congress briefed on the matter. That is mad, isn't it? The biggest military in the world, the country that spends more on its military than the next 26 countries combined or whatever it used to be. It's not that anymore, because countries are spending a lot more. Probably up there calling Polanski anti-Jewish. Yes. Self-hating Jew. What are you doing drinking Fanta and using an IBM and driving a BMW, you self-hating Jew? The hilarity of these right-wingers accusing Zach Polanski, who is Jewish, of being anti-Semitic, while their leader is someone who makes jokes about the Holocaust and won't even apologise for it. 30 people he went to school with have come forward to say he made jokes about the Holocaust because he thought the systematic massacre, the genocide of 6 million Jews, he thinks it's funny. That's the caliber of the leaders that we have. That particular leader. But one thing I'll say about Starmer is that he's fucking useless. Another thing that I'll say about him is when he is no longer the leader of Labour, Labour will continue. Labour will be fine. Labour will go on to the next, the next election and probably squeak it, or maybe there'll be a hung parliament or something, but they'll be the biggest party. Meanwhile, if Farage is no longer around because, I don't know, someone pisses through his letterbox and he says, "Oh, it was a firebomb," if he's no longer around, then that's it for the refuck party, because it's all based on him. People vote for the Farage party. So Keir Starmer is coming on stage now. Turn up the volume. Pump up the volume. Pump up the volume. Pump up the volume. So. As I read that free-word slogan, like, a stronger, fairer Britain. The question I have is, who is it going to be stronger and fairer for? Yeah. I mean, they're both kind of nebulous words, aren't they? A bit nebulous. Oh, stop clapping. He doesn't deserve your claps. He deserves the clap. See what I did there?
Thank you very much. And thank you, Jay. They were such powerful words. Thank you for that introduction. The election results last week were tough. Very
That's one way of putting it.
We lost some brilliant Labour representatives. That hurts. And it should hurt. I get it. I feel it.
I feel it in my fingers.
I take responsibility.
I feel it in my toes.
But it's not just about taking responsibility for the results. It's about taking responsibility to explain how, as a political and electoral force, we will be better and do better in the months and years ahead. Because we are not just facing dangerous times, but dangerous opponents, very dangerous opponents. This hurts not just because Labour has done badly, but because if we don't get this right, our country will go down a very dark path. So just as I take responsibility for the results, I also take responsibility for delivering the change that we promised.
Oh, he said the
For a
word.
stronger
He said
and
the
fairer
magic
Britain
word.
that
He
we
said
must build.
delivering. Come on, animation.
I take responsibility for navigating us through a world that is more dangerous than at any time in my life. And I take responsibility for not walking away, not plunging our country into chaos as the Tories did time and again, chaos that did lasting damage to this country. A Labour government would never be forgiven for inflicting that on our country again.
Again. Oh, 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 oh. I'm not going to leave because it'll be chaos. Jesus, he is boring. Hey, leave Jesus out of this.
We know that people are frustrated by the state of Britain.
Oh, yes.
Frustrated by
Frustrated by you.
And some people frustrated with me.
Yes, it's like watching your nan try and type a text message.
And I know I need to prove them wrong, and I will. So, let me start on a personal note.
My daddy was a toolmaker.
Like every Prime Minister,
My daddy was a
I've
toolmaker.
learned a lot in the first 2 years in the job.
Daddy was a toolmaker.
In terms of the policy challenges that our country faces, incremental change won't cut it. On growth, defence, Europe, energy, we need a bigger response than we anticipated in 2024. Because these are not ordinary times. And this is a political challenge just as much as it's a policy challenge. Delivery is, of course, essential, but it's not sufficient on its own to address the frustration that voters feel. We're battling reform and the Greens, but at a deeper level, we're battling the despair on which they prey, despair that they exploit and amplify. And so analysis matters, but argument matters more. Evidence matters, but so too does emotion. Stories beat spreadsheets. People
Absolutely
need
agree,
hope.
SG. Absolutely agree. Read
So we will
SG's
face
message
up
there on
to
the
big
screen.
challenges. And we will make the big arguments, the Labour case, that only Labour values and Labour policies can ensure our country not only weathers these storms, but emerges stronger and fairer. And the Labour case, that neither Nigel Farage nor Zach Polansky offers our country the serious progressive leadership that these times demand.
Okay. My tool was a father maker. Very good.
Of course, like every government, we've made mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
But we got the big political choices right. I mean, if we'd listened to the advice of other parties,
We would have joined the
right
war with
now
Iran.
we'd be stuck in a standoff with Iran, having been dragged into a war that is not in our interest, and I will never do that.
But what if it is in our interest, Keir?
We have invested in our public services, in people, in the pride of Britain's communities. Difficult decisions funded that. But now, NHS waiting lists are coming down. Child poverty is coming down. Immigration is coming down. And we are rebuilding from the ground up. They were the right calls. And
That's
most
very
of all,
cool, Oliver Brown.
we stabilised the economy. The fundamentals are sound. And that matters because it puts us in a much better place to come out of the conflict in Iran stronger and fairer.
Father was a belt
and for
sander.
living standards to improve after 2 decades of
The
stagnation.
tool was my father. My father was just a
That's
tool.
not enough, clearly.
I love you.
For the British people, tired of a status quo that has failed them,
Incremental change won't
cannot
cut it.
come quickly enough.
Yep.
And truth be told, I'm not sure that they believe that we care. I'm
Yep.
not sure they believe that we
Yep.
see their
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah, because incremental change is all you've been doing the
It's
last
tough
2
to
fucking
say.
years.
When you come from a working class background like me,
Daddy was a toolmaker.
it's hard to hear that.
Daddy was a toolmaker.
Because I do know what it's like to struggle and to strive. But what I take from it is that I've spent too much time talking about what I am doing for working people and not enough time talking about why or who I stand for. Because I can see how hard life has been during these decades of crisis. I can see that very clearly. My late brother Nick spent all his adult life going from one job to the next. The status quo did not work for him. My sister is a carer, working long hours on low pay.
Daddy was a toolmaker. Go on, say it. Say it. Say it.
After year.
Say it.
She didn't even get sick pay in the pandemic. The status quo did not work for her. For too long, we've ignored people like that.
Yeah,
and there are millions of people in that boat.
How about the trans people you keep ignoring? Actually, don't ignore them. Give them a kick.
Respect, the chance that they deserve to go as far as their talent and effort should take them. Millions of people held back because the status quo in this country does not work for them. I am fighting for them. We are fighting for them. I am their Prime Minister, and this is their government.
Some people are frustrated with me. Some people.
I know whose side I'm on. I'm on the side of working people just like my sister. People who work harder and harder.
Someone else is
but
talking
who worry
there
about
in the
the cost
background.
of living.
That's not me.
They're not asking for the world. They just want to do the best for their kids. They want their town centres, the places they care about, to thrive. Their public services to work. And
if only there was something he could do about it, having a huge majority.
And right now, they're worried sick. They turn on the TV, they see bombs falling. They go to the petrol station, see prices rising, and they think, how is this happening to us again? They say, how can I be paying the price for a war thousands of miles away that I don't support, that Britain isn't involved in? And it's not a new feeling, is it? For 2 decades, our country has been buffeted by crisis after crisis.
I love a good
the 2008 financial crash, the Tory austerity that followed it, Brexit, COVID, the Ukraine war, on and on it goes. And the response is always the same. A desperate attempt to get back to the status quo, a status quo that failed working people time and again. Our response this time must be different, a complete break. We must make this country stronger, take control of our economic security, our energy security, our defence security, and we must make this country fairer. Strength through fairness. That is my compass in this world. It is a core Labour argument. And in the coming days, you will see those values writ large in the King's Speech. And you will see hope, urgency, and exactly whose side we're on reflected in everything we say and everything we do.
I do
so
it
let me
for
give
you
3 examples today. Starting with British Steel. Because what we did in Scunthorpe last year is one of the proudest things we have done in government. That plant was hours away from closure, and that is thousands of jobs gone, an entire region decimated, Britain's security exposed. And so we acted. Parliament was in recess, but it didn't matter. As a united Labour Party, we passed emergency legislation and we took control. And we must bring that same urgency to everything now, starting, appropriately enough, with Scunthorpe. Because steel is the ultimate sovereign capability.
Why would anything need to start with
Strong
Scunthorpe?
nations in a world like this need to make steel. That's why we're backing steel in Port Talbot and across the UK. But in Scunthorpe, we've been negotiating with the current owner, and a commercial sale has not been possible. And now a public interest test could be met. So I can announce that legislation will be brought forward this week to give the government powers, subject to that public interest test, to take full national ownership of British steel.
Ooh, we're nationalising the steel. Thank fuck for that. Oh, well, there you go. Who put the cunt in Scunthorpe? Who put the clits in Clitheroe? Who put the twat in WeightWatchers.com?
Ownership in the public interest. Urgent government on the side of working people, making Britain stronger with the hope of industrial renewal. That is a Labour choice.
Labour choice. Labour choice. Labour choice. That is our Labour choice.
Second example. Europe. And I'm sorry, but I need to take a bit of a detour on this, because I want to remind you what Nigel Farage said about Brexit. He said it would make us richer. Wrong. It made us poorer. He said it would reduce migration.
Come on, we're going back into
Wrong.
Europe. Say
Migration
it. Say the words. We're going back into Europe.
He said it would make us more secure. Wrong again.
Say the words.
It made us weaker. He took Britain for a ride. And unlike the Tories, actually, who at least had to face up to it, he just fled the scene. And now he'll talk about almost anything other than the consequences of the one policy he actually delivered. Because he's not just a grifter, he is a chancer.
Yes. Yeah. There he is. Oh, you couldn't be a grifter. You couldn't be a grifter, are you?
And so at the next EU summit, I will set a new direction for Britain.
An EU
the last
direction.
government was defined by breaking our relationship with Europe. This Labour government will be defined by rebuilding our relationship with
Rejoining Europe.
by putting Britain at the heart
Rejoin
of Europe.
Europe.
So that we are stronger on the economy, stronger on trade, stronger on defence, you name it. Because standing shoulder to shoulder
Brexit made
with
us
the
poorer,
countries
weaker.
that most share our interests, our values,
He's right about
and
that.
our enemies. That is the right choice for Britain. That is the Labour choice.
The right choice for Britain. Well, the right choice for this channel. Confetti, which we can have if we get one more super
And
chat.
for our young people, also something more. Because Brexit snatched away their ability to work, to study, and to live easily in
Sorry,
Europe.
I don't know why I keep pressing that.
That's why I'm proud we restored the Erasmus scheme. But I want to go further. I want to make a better offer for our young people. Restore that hope, that freedom, that sense of possibility. And so I want an ambitious youth experience scheme to be at the heart of our new arrangement with the EU, so that our young people can work, can study, and live in Europe, a symbol of a stronger relationship and a fairer future with our closest allies. That is the Labour choice.
What is the Labour choice? For Labour to Labour under a misapprehension.
And third, the greatest hope. The hope that every parent has of a better future for their children.
Santa.
And I want parents to feel that that is shared by their government. Now, my parent, don't worry, I'm not going there. But they didn't have a lot of money. And my mum was seriously ill for almost all of her life. But when they were in their later years,
What's your relevance?
reflecting on what gave their life meaning, I could see that, as well as their hope in us, their kids, what comforted them was the idea that they had contributed to a Britain that was getting better for young people.
If you want to
That kids
subscribe,
now
by
had
the
a
way,
better
just hit the subscribe
opportunity
button.
than they did.
And then you can
And so I have always
join
been
in.
driven by the idea
Join in.
that every child should go as far as their talent or effort takes them. It's a beautiful idea, shared widely across this country. We tell ourselves stories about it, don't we? Stories not unlike mine. about the working class kids who do make it. And I don't blame people for telling those stories. It's important.
Go on, say toolmaker. You know you want to. Say it. Say it.
But it's not everyone, is it? So
Yay! Give us a like, and we've also
to
got
go as far as their talent
better
or
offer for
expectations.
trans.
I mean, every child.
For young trans people, please. Yes,
I mean, the kids who are growing up in poverty.
Boo. Ice boo,
The
you're
kids
absolutely
who
right.
have special educational needs.
And here we go.
The kids who
3,
can't get a
2,
job.
1, Confetti! Woo! Confetti time!
Often only puts those who go to university on a pedestal. We don't really see anything else as success. And that is wrong, deeply wrong. So we will go much further on our investment in apprenticeships, in technical excellence colleges, in special educational needs. We will make sure that every young person struggling to find a job will get a guaranteed offer of a job, training or work placement. And
Woo! Come on, man.
And we will go much further with
still a
our
bit too
Pride in
vague.
Place programme. Back the millions of people who give their time and their effort to young people in their community. We will back them, not just with money, but with power. And we will make sure that kids whose talent lies with their hands, kids who go to college,
like toolmakers.
kids ignored by the status quo, because politicians' kids don't go there. They will finally get the respect that they deserve in a stronger, fairer Britain. That is the Labour choice. These are just a few examples, but they show the urgency and hope in our direction. They show the Labour values we will be guided for. And they show, frankly, the lessons that we will learn. Now, other parties will draw different lessons. In fact, they already are. They want more grievance politics, more division, more pointing at Britain's
Joy
problems,
division.
looking not for solutions, but for someone to blame. Now, that's fine if it's me, if it's politicians, that's the job. But increasingly, it's not. It's other people in this country. And I don't think that's British. That's not the decency and respect that we are known for. But it's here. That politics is with us now. And you'll see it again on Saturday at a march designed to confront and intimidate this diversity.
Ban it. Ban the march. Ban the march.
That is why this Labour government will block far-right agitators from travelling to Britain for that event.
Don't just block the event. Just block the event. Just don't let them do it.
And spread hate on our streets. This is nothing less than a battle for the soul of our nation. And I want to be crystal clear about how we will win it. Because we cannot win as a weaker version of Reform or the Greens. We can only win as a stronger version of Labour, a mainstream party of power, not protest. And I also want to be really clear on this, because I will never stop fighting for the decent, respectful, diverse country that I love. I will never give up on the hope we can unlock in this country, the hope of renters for security in their home, of workers for fairness at work, of public services freed from austerity, the hope of European solidarity, of community pride, of the people who paint over the graffiti that is racist, a country taking control of its future, our spirit unchanged, our resolve unbroken, the hope of a country that can and will become a stronger, fairer Britain. That is the hope I'm fighting for. That is the hope we are fighting for. That is the Labour choice.
10 points to Gryffindor!
Thank you very much. Thank you.
One day we'll be watching a speech by Trump and someone will do something awful to him. And I'll get to say, 10 points to Gryffindor! Can't wait. Give us something that feels strong then. Yeah. Hey Wayne, how you doing? You don't believe a word of this. Beige boy.
Thank you very much.
He is distinctly vague.
I'm now going to take some questions from the media,
Hello.
and I'm starting with Chris Mason. Chris.
Roger Irrelevant.
Thank you. Chris Mason, BBC
Starmer
News.
speaks.
Prime Minister, do you think
awful
in
like
your
Roger
gut
Irrelevant.
what you have said is enough this morning?
dog, Chris
and what
Mason,
do
here
you
we
say
go.
directly to those of your colleagues who are weighing up right now whether to back you or to suggest that you should go? And if I may, would you back continuing to block Andy Burnham from trying to return to Parliament?
Well, Chris, there's a lot packed into that question. Let me just, what I'm doing is setting out the response, the direction that we need to take, and the acknowledgement that in the world we live in now, we need a bigger response than 2024. It is a different world, and an acknowledgement that this isn't the first shock the country's been through with the Iran conflict. We've had plenty of those in the last 20 years, but every time the government of the day has tried to get back to a status quo that doesn't work. And we're not going to do that this time. That is the urgent task facing our country. We were elected into office to change this country, to bring about the change that is needed. The frustration that has been spoken about is a frustration of at least 20 years, if not more. That is what we're charged with changing. That is what we will change. In relation to Andy Burnham, obviously, any future decision is for the NEC. Andy's doing a great job as mayor in Manchester. And I actually work really well with Andy, and I'll give you two examples. On Northern Powerhouse Rail, which is really important for the North West, we are working together on that project. But equally, we've stood together to support Manchester, the community, when we had the terrible attack on a synagogue last year. Andy was the first person I phoned, and I went straight to Manchester to work with him on our response. So we work very well together, but the actual decision will be one for the NEC. Thank you, Chris, very much. Beth, from Sky News.
Thank you. Prime Minister, back in 2021, when Labour lost hundreds of council seats in the Hartlepool by-election, you thought about resigning as Labour leader, explaining, this is quoting you, "I didn't feel I should be bigger than the party." But these results, this moment, is so much worse than then. You've lost nearly 1,500 councillors, 40 councils, you've lost Wales. Haven't you, for one moment, thought you should step aside in the interests of the party and country? And if you haven't, why haven't you? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Beth. I think what we witnessed with the last government was the chaos of constantly changing leaders. And it cost this country a huge amount. A huge amount. And I'll tell you who paid the price. It was working people. They paid the price of this. They are still paying the price of this. A Labour government will not inflict that on our country again. We were elected with a mandate to change this country because of what had gone before. And that is what we will do. Yes, I acknowledge the frustration. Yes, I acknowledge the results are tough. Yes, I acknowledge that we've lost brilliant representatives across the United Kingdom. And I have a responsibility for that. But I also have a responsibility to deliver the change that we were elected and that we promised this country.
Deliver!
Thank you very much, Beth.
Just throw that in there. Throw in the delivery.
What's Vic said to you this weekend?
Vic is a rock, and we talk everything through together, as you know. Robert Peston from ITV.
Prime Minister, these were arguably the worst election results for Labour in 100 years. And, I spent all weekend, as you'd expect, talking to your MPs and ministers. And, most of them said to me that they do think your time is up. So what would persuade you that you're not the best person for this job? And just on this issue of this is no longer the time for incremental change, when you were elected, we'd had 15 years of no growth. We'd had Putin's war that led to the worst energy spike in history. Many would say Brexit had failed. Why didn't you get it then?
Well,
that's a good question.
Look, I'm not going to shy away from the fact that I've got some doubters, including my own party. And I'm not going to shy away from the fact that I have to prove them wrong, and I will. I had my doubters when I took on the Labour Party. I had my doubters who said we couldn't change this party and make it capable of winning an election. And I proved them wrong. And when we did that, I had my doubters who said, you can't lead us to a general election victory after the loss in 2019. It was so bad. It's not possible.
I don't think Robert Peston is PSM. I don't think he is.
I'm going to prove them wrong again. I also feel a deep sense of personal responsibility to deliver on the mandate that we won at that 2024 election. The first Labour government for 14 years that had to come in and clear up the mess and build a better Britain. That is what I came into politics to do, and that is what I will deliver. Thank you very much. And Robert, the second...
He said deliver again.
On the incremental. Look, you heard what I said about Scunthorpe. This is an example of the urgency and the pace and the type of decisions that we need to make.
Yeah, you kind of forced to. You couldn't find the buyer. Come on.
A bigger response, a bigger argument that has been made before, because we're living in different times. The Iran war comes on top of all the other crises we've faced for 20 years. We have to learn the lesson. Every single time in the past, we've simply tried to get back as quickly as possible to a status quo that didn't work. We can't do the same again. That's why we need a bigger response. Thank you very much, Robert. I've got Catherine Foster.
Preston!
Thank you, Catherine Foster, GB News. Prime Minister, the Labour Party was founded to represent...
Fucking media.
Class, many of whom
GB News was founded to support, to represent foreign billionaires.
You've said yourself that the status quo is not working, but you're standing here in London and you're promising more Europe. You lost so much of your core vote in the Red Wall, in Wales, in Scotland, because working class communities feel that the Labour Party has abandoned them and that you don't get it. Are they wrong?
Well, Catherine, thank you very much. On Brexit, the reason I reminded everyone what Nigel Farage said is because that was the promise he put to the country, that we'd be stronger, we'd be richer, we'd have lots of money for the NHS.
Yeah, why isn't Entertainment Channel at a news conference?
And it all proved to be false. And he doesn't take any responsibility. He's not going back to the country now saying it was a good thing, you've all benefited. He'll talk about almost anything else apart from the consequences of the one thing that he delivered for the country, Brexit. He doesn't want to talk about that, and there's a reason for that. It didn't help working people. It turned out what he said wasn't true. And that's why he doesn't want to talk about it now. But we have to talk about it now, because we have to address the situation we're in. We have to give this country a stronger economy, a stronger defence and security set of arrangements, given the world we are living in. And that's why I said what I've said about being closer to Europe, and this government being defined by bringing Europe back together again and Britain at the heart of Europe. Thank you very much, Catherine. I've got Pippa from The Guardian. Pippa.
Prime Minister, I've got a specific question for you and a wider one, if I may. The specific one is, if one of your MPs launches a contest, a leadership bid against you, will you fight it? And the wider one is, do you think that Britain is ungovernable? And if so, why? And who's to blame? The media, your MPs, the government, you? Thank you.
Yes and no. No, I'm not going to walk away in relation to the first part of your question for the reasons I've set out. And no, I don't think Britain is ungovernable. On the contrary, one of the things that I draw great strength from is all the millions of people who care passionately about their place, their community, where they live, where they work. The millions of people who give hours and hours and hours of their time for their community, volunteering, helping others, running teams, you name it. That is a great strength of our country. I draw strength from the fact that we are a reasonable, tolerant, decent country, a live and let live country, a diverse country. That is the real Britain. That's not an ungovernable Britain. That is the Britain that I will fight for, particularly in light of the opponents we now have politically, different to the opponents that we had before. That is the real Britain. That is the Britain I love. That's the Britain I'll fight for. Thank you, Pippa. Jim Pickard from the FT. Jim.
Jim Pickard, FT. Prime Minister, you say you don't want incremental change, and you say you want Britain to be at the heart of Europe. Are you ruling out, however, Labour manifesto at the next general election, including single market or custom union membership? Because without either of those things, our economy is very much not in the heart of Europe.
Yeah, well, Jim, what I want to do is take a big leap forward with the EU-UK summit this year and take us closer, both on trade, the economy, defence and security.
That wasn't supposed to happen.
And that will then be a platform on which we can build as we go forward. And as we do that, I strongly believe we've got to turn our back on the arguments of the past, not open old grievances, but look forward together to how we make this.
We want to be together.
How we make this country fairer. And so that's the approach that I will take. I've got Audrey from The Times. Audrey.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Aubrey Allegretti from The Times. To follow up on a previous question, you said that whether Andy Burnham comes back to Parliament is a matter for the NEC. Your business secretary said as much this morning, but he also said that it would be a distraction and that Labour shouldn't be fighting unnecessarily elections. Do you agree with him? Do you think Labour can afford to have 2 by-elections in Greater Manchester for the mayoralty and wherever Andy Burnham returns? And also, if I may, over the weekend, I think you gave an interview in which you suggested that you would like to be Prime Minister for a full 10 years. Some Labour MPs have been unhappy with those comments. Do you still stand by them?
Well, on Andy Burnham, my answer, Aubrey, is the same. That will be a matter for the National Executive Committee if and when the issue arises. But just to be really clear, on a personal level, I've worked very closely with Andy in our respective roles now. The first person I worked for when I came to Parliament was Andy. He wanted me in his team in the Shadow Home Office. I wanted to be in his team in the Shadow Home Office. So we work very well together. We'll continue to work very well together. If the issue arises, it'll be a matter for the NEC. On the decade, look, what I'm doing is spelling out the scale of the challenge that we face. It's the same argument I was making before the election, which is after the damage of the last government, it will take time to clear that damage up and to build the better, stronger country that we need. And that's the decade that I've been talking about. Look, do I recognise that we've got to turn this around? Yes, of course I do. Do I realise that we've got to respond to these elections in the way I've set out in the speech I gave a moment to? Yes, of course I do. And what I've done today is set out how I intend to address that task. Thank you very much, Aubrey. I've got Sophie from the Mirror.
Hi, Sophie Huskisson from the Mirror. Thank you, Prime Minister. So do you agree with Angela Rayner that this could be your last chance to change course and save the Labour Party's future? And do you think the party should move more to the left to become, as you put it, a stronger version of Labour? And if I can just ask as well, since the losses in Wales and Scotland, have you spoken to Leonard Morgan and Farage, and what was said? Thank you.
Let me take them in reverse order. I've spoken to both Leonard and Anas. I'm not going to go through the conversation, but I have spoken to them, as I've spoken to many of those brilliant representatives who didn't get elected this time, and to council leaders across the country. I've spent a good deal of the weekend having those calls, but those calls did include Leonard and Anas. In relation to the task of turning this around, look, I do understand the enormity of the task that we face. We inherited a terrible legacy from the last government. Economically, public services, the NHS on its knees. And what we found when we got into government was even worse than we feared. And one of the mistakes I think we made was we wanted to level with the country about how bad things were. But we didn't convince people enough in that early period of the change that we would bring about and why their lives would be better. And that's why we have to change that and inject much more hope and optimism into what we are saying. And so I think Angela and I agree, and I've spoken to Angela as well, by the way, so I know exactly what her thinking is in relation to this. Thank you very much. I've got Jack from the Sun.
Bit of a non-answer there.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Jack from the Sun, just on that point, when you did speak to Angela Rayner, did she rule out ever launching a leadership challenge against you? And also, you said in your speech just now that if you were ousted as Labour leader, it would plunge the country into chaos. Some of your critics say your government is already mired in chaos, but can you be clear about what you mean? Are you saying that because it is you with the mandate, if you were ousted, there would have to be a general election?
Well, Jack's a lot bound up with that. I did speak to Angela. I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint you by not going. I've spoken to Angela many, many times, by the way, in the last few weeks. We are friends. We get on very well. But I'm not going to go through each and everything that we discussed in those calls.
Well, it's just
but
mean
on
and
this
disgusting.
question of chaos, look, the question whether if a government constantly changes its leadership.
Gallifreyan men. Vimbissima!
It's not an academic question. It's not something that you study at university and go through various theories. We tested it. We tested it to destruction under the last government, and it inflicted huge damage on this country. A Labour government will never be forgiven if we repeat that and inflict that on the country. And that's what I mean when I say I'm not going to plunge this country into chaos. Jason from the Mail.
Thanks, PM. That was a heartfelt speech. Your own MPs, though, at the end of last week, were saying that you were detested on the doorstep. Those are their words. They said that people are no longer listening to you, and that it doesn't matter how many heartfelt speeches you make, your unpopularity is dragging this government down. In those circumstances, don't you owe it to them to step aside and give someone else a go at keeping these forces of darkness at bay?
Well, look, I acknowledged, Jason, a moment ago, there is frustration across the country that at the status quo, which isn't working. There's frustration that politics is not working for too many people. And yes, there is some frustration with me, I acknowledge that.
Hey.
But that frustration that I'm describing has been built up over many, many years by people who feel that their lives are not getting better, that their city centre, their town centre, the place where they live doesn't look any better for them, that their children aren't going to get better chances than they got. That is what's driving that frustration. That is deep, that is political, that is the challenge we have to rise to. I mean, it's not a frustration that can be just cast aside easily. It's deeply bound in the status quo that has failed for so many years, and that's why we have to turn that around. And I've got Bethan McGinley.
Hi.
Bethan.
Hi. So you talked a lot today about giving young people hope again, but for many young Britons, things like home ownership, secure work, and financial stability still feel further away than it did for previous generations. Why should they believe that this government can reverse that?
Well, I think
because his dad was a toolmaker.
Young people have been very badly let down, whether that's on opportunities at work. We've got the best part of 1 million people, young people, not
20% more promises.
Huge impact on them for the rest of their lives. People who can't get on the housing ladder very quickly or at all, and we have to instill the hope in them. We do that by changing what we're doing to help people get into work. We do that by taking better protections for renters. Too many young people are spending a lot of their income on rent, therefore they can't save their money.
Half their income on rent.
Deposit. We're changing that with the Renters' Rights Act, which came into force just a week and a bit ago. And we're changing that with the hope of a better future and the sense in which they will be able to work, travel and study in Europe in a way which hasn't been possible in recent years. And in the end, those young people are our hope, because that's why I gave the example of my mum and dad, and it's a very real example, because I think very many people, when they get towards the end of their lives, do reflect and say, what was my life about? And for my mum and dad, in material things, they didn't actually have a lot to show for their lives, but they had this deep comfort. I could really feel it, this deep comfort inside, that they, my mum and dad, Rod and Joe, that they had contributed to a country where the next generation would have better chances. That is the real hope and optimism in young people, and that's where it resides with me, because I think, as I said in the speech, that's the greatest hope of all. So thank you very much for that question. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Oh, thank God for that. Oh, man. Right, he's gone. He's gone. He's out of here. He's out. He's out. Sorry, I think I drifted off a bit at the end there. Does anyone want to fill me in with what he was saying? It's a bit like, oh God, is he still talking? Is he still? Is he? I don't know. though he said 40 minutes to press questions, says Mr. Tusk. Do you know what, mate? I'm glad that it wasn't. I'm very glad that it wasn't 40 minutes of that. I do have another show to do today, so just saying. So we're going to go over to the papers in a moment. If you don't mind, and I don't mind, we'll go over to the papers. Let me just get that set up, because obviously it was set up for YouTube, and you don't want it to be set up for YouTube no more. Right. What we'll do is we will go over to the papers, and then we'll look at the Financial Times at the end. So we'll come back to it. We'll circle around. So the iPaper first. Today or never to save your job. Labour MPs tell Starmer. Kitchen killer dust banned. Adolescence wins big at the BAFTAs. No surprise there. Arsenal edge close to the title with West Ham win. Don't care. And then we've got Michael Socher, who wants to be a gangster. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. We've got the Mail here with Liz Jones standing like this for some demented reason. She's looking like Cecil B. Demented there. And she says, seeing a medium reduced me to tears and convinced me there is an afterlife. They know the intellectual caliber of the people who read this fucking filth, don't they? Streeting and Rayner ready for Starmer's fall. PM on the brink as rebellion could seal his fate today. Rayner blasts PM's record as a signal to Burnham alliance. Streeting's bid is poised to rival parties hard left. Do you know what I don't do enough? I should bring on this Daily Mail headline here. At last, the true Tory budget. I should just bring that on. Do you know what I mean? Like, just every time the Mail is talking shit, I'll just bring that on. At last, the true Tory budget. Then we've got the Times, which PM fights to save his skin after Rayner ultimatum. She just said you got to get better. I mean, she didn't really do very much. But bloody hell, doesn't Wes Streeting look like the inflatable autopilot from Airplane? And there's Lucy Punch, the star of Amandaland, well, Motherland, and then, well, she wasn't the star of Motherland. That was Deborah Thingy, Morgan Thingy. But yeah, she's Diane. Sorry, not Deborah. Sorry, Diane. Diane Morgan. You know, Philomena Cook. Amandaland is a spin-off from Motherland, and it's very funny. It won at the BAFTAs, which is nice. The BBC sitcom won Best Scripted Comedy. By the way, the first series of Motherland was co-written by none other than Graham Linehan. You know, the anti-trans person. You know, the person who hates all the trans people. I bet his hard drive is filled with trans porn. But he decided that he hated trans people so much because his wife was one of the writers on Motherland. His wife, who's Peter Seravevich's sister, in fact. It's all quite incestuously comedy scene in the UK and Ireland. And she left him. Helen Seravenovich left him, and the kids left him because he's such a massive TERF. And so the second season of Motherland was not written by Graham Linehan because they told him to fuck off at that point for being a massive transphobe. Let that be a warning to you, massive transphobes. Medical team parachuted in to treat cruise virus Islander. Okay. I think there's a bit much about this outbreak of this particular, disease that killed 3 people on one cruise ship. And people die on cruise ships all the time. I'm not particularly concerned about this one. Do you know what happens, right? Whenever the scientists say we should be particularly concerned about this particular outbreak of XYZ, then that's when we should be particularly concerned about it. But when that happens, people aren't particularly concerned about it because they go, oh, well, this happens all the time. And the reason why they say, oh, this happens all the time is because newspapers like to go on and on and on beyond any rhyme or reason, going on about a particular outbreak of a particular disease in a particular part of the world that's actually not going to affect the rest of us in any way, shape or form, but they report it in such a way that we think it will. And when it doesn't affect us in any way, shape or form, like Ebola outbreaks in West Africa or Nigeria, or Nile River fever or whatever it is, when it doesn't affect the rest of us, we start thinking, oh, well, maybe they're making too much of this. And we conflate journalists' appetite for going on and on and on about a small outbreak of a particular disease on the other side of the world, with scientists actually looking at it and going, is this going to result in a global pandemic? With hantavirus, no. Coronavirus, yes. They said yes from the start. If you listen to the actual scientists and the experts and the epidemiologists, they were like, yeah, this is going to fuck us up. This is going to fuck our shit up. But no one listened to them because the newspapers, for years and years, every time there's someone blows their nose in a small village in northern Nigeria, it's oh my God, the plague is coming. And this is the boy who cried wolf, as far as I'm concerned. Businesses. So I'm not saying that people didn't die. People did die. It was awful, but I'm saying that they make a little bit too much of it. Business rate weights. Ministers have been accused of pushing companies to the brink of bankruptcy by forcing them to wait 18 months to correct inaccurate business rate assessments. Then that needs to be sorted out, doesn't it? These are the small stories at the bottom of the Times, if you're wondering where I'm reading from. Fab spot for museum. London's first museum dedicated to the Beatles. It's being established in Savile Row, where the band played their on the rooftop in their final performance. Bless them. Hot button issue. The Royal Navy is planning to spend up to $200,000 on a new uniform for female sailors, because the present design's buttons are said to be placed inappropriately. I think they want their boobs. Work weighs heavily. Longer working hours could be fueling obesity because they result in poor dietary choices. I completely agree. Peace deal reply. Iran has responded to the 14-point peace proposal peppered forward by the President of the United States in a reply that state media says focuses on ending the war and maritime security. Fears over job losses. A respected forecaster says the UK economy is on course to lose more than 160,000 jobs this year as a result of slowdown and growth in rising energy prices. We've got the National here. The National. We don't normally get the National, so that's nice, getting the National. Scott. Neil's drivel attack on Scotland is ripped apart. Former BBC journalist told he should visit more often rather than writing columns from France, as he claims the country is rudderless and increasingly shabby, and its towns and cities are gripped by squalor. What a fucking knob. What an absolute fucking knob. Love it. Flynn hits out as TV host brands indie ref bid separatist, and then we've got an exclusive there in the National. Greens condemn disgraceful abuse of transgender MSPs. Perfect. Like, that is a great fucking... That's not a good title. It's like, the story's awful. But, like, a newspaper that actually reports on news that's happening. You know, that none of that is opinion, really. I mean, yeah, Rayner did say that. Flynn did hit out. And former BBC journalist and the former chairman of the Spectator magazine, you know, which was very political, while he was the BBC's political editor and the host of the flagship BBC Politics programme. That was fine for him to be completely biased and be the chair of an incredibly right-wing Nazi rag. But if Gary Lineker dared put something on Twitter to say, hey, you know, maybe refugees should be looked after a bit better, then, you know, he was for the chopping block, obviously. Rivals Season 2, a bottomless bunch of bonking nostalgia. Sounds great. Arsenal's title nears after biggest VAR call in history. And then we've got a rather crazy picture on the front of the Daily Telegraph there of the robot behind the other robot and in the two robots. It's a bit like Law and Data, those two. I don't know which is which. Streeting, I'm ready to BPM. The rest of us aren't, mate. You can go fuck yourself to, the edge of the universe. Polanski falsely claimed he worked at Ministry of Justice. Zach Polanski is falsely claimed to have worked at the Ministry of Justice while campaigning for elected office. He said in a message in 1987, before he was born, that he didn't... patients told that they have cancer via NHS app in digital overhaul. We've got rat virus passengers return to Britain. We've got Bluebird takes it slow at Coniston comeback. We've got Trump. Iran's reply is totally unacceptable, referring to the message that was on the front cover of the Times a minute ago. Emissions rise despite Miliband's net zero push. The UK generated more carbon emissions from its energy supplies last year, despite Ed Miliband's renewables push. Yeah, because it takes a while to get through. You got to do, and plus we're being held up at every step of the way by the tabloids and the people who own the fucking tabloids. The oil oligarchs. They think it's all over. World Cup Stadium soccer, the iconic stadium where the World Cup kicks off next month, is sinking. And fans also claim it's dangerous with great big chunks of concrete dropping off. I mean, come on, that's objectively hilarious, isn't it? That is objectively hilarious. This is going to be a fucking disaster, this World Cup, which kicks off in just over a month's time. Ay, no me gusta. Okay, so Daily Express here. How dare he? PM plots to rip up Brexit. I love this title. This headline is making me happy. How dare he? PM is going to rip up our Brexit. Good. I'm glad he's going to rip up your Brexit. I hope he rips it up in front of you while laughing maniacally. And then maybe, I don't know, pissing on your grave or something. Beleaguered Starmer to ditch EU red lines as Rayner stokes Labour civil war. It's not quite what happened, but, you know, through the prism of the Express, there you go. Alan has a moment grabbing BAFTA's Gong for the Traitors, which was a very good show with him in. Can Orwell hide... A bit racist, though. Bit racist. Can oral hygiene save your life? Yes, people died of their teeth. People still do. Still on target. Gunners survive late VAR drama at West Ham. Labour's leadership rivals circle as Starmer tries to cling to power. It's not possible to see how Starmer can recover from this. Yeah, he's on his way out, but it's just all about timing, darling. Timing. Passengers leave ship struck by Hunter. Okay, fine. Okay, why are they going on about this so much? It's like it's awful that 3 people died on a cruise ship after contracting a virus which jumped from rats to humans. No, rat ship to humans. I'm sorry that happened. It's awful. But going on and on about it does not help, because next time there is a fucking actual thing that could actually start an actual fucking pandemic, everyone's just going to go, well, remember hantavirus? Remember all the fuss about Ebola? Remember all the fuss about swine flu? Anyway, Golden Boy's adolescent stars lead BAFTA Roll of Honor. Iran Peace Laureate on her prison ordeal. The Nobel Peace Prize laureate, Najaz Mohammadi, has described the torture of solitary confinement and a systematic medical neglect by the prison system in Iran. That's an awful story. And there we've got Thingamabobber, I've forgotten her name, from Adolescence, and the other people who won. You've got Claudia Winkleman there with her trademark fringe, and the kid from Adolescence there with his hair looking like quite hairy with his hair. Lucky bastard, young people with hair. Maybe that's why old people get so bitter. They're like, these people have got hair. I've got hair as well. I miss the days of hair. Change before it's too late. This election fallout. Rayner in stinging swipe at PM's record. Yeah. I don't think he's got a record. I think that was Tony Blair, and he used to play the guitar or something. Starmer to lay out his fight back agenda, which was the speech that we just watched, which was a nothing burger. Do we care? Does anyone give a fuck? I mean, it was just a bit, yes, we will do this, and no. So they're going to nationalise British Steel. They're going to push for closer integration with the EU, which we knew anyway. And they're going to, the rest of it was just nothing, wasn't it? Big nothing burger. No big headlines out of that. They should have banned the march, just banned it outright, and they should say we're the Home Secretary is initiating a full police inquiry into the giving of £5 million worth of blood money to Nigel Farage, and if found guilty, he will not just be removed as an MP, but he will also be found guilty of working for the Russian state, facilitating the Russian state, and put in jail for the next 10 years. Hopefully he won't get out, if you know what I mean. Right, moving on. Financial Times, find the buyer local on eBay. Fuck off. What would life be like without US tech? Family firms have a surname problem. Repatriation, virus-stricken ship evacuated. Again, like, there's people there dressed like they're in the film Contagion or Infection or whatever the fuck it was called. Okay, yeah, I get it. This is fear-mongering. Stop doing this, newspapers. Okay, put the news story in the newspaper somewhere in the back, but not on the front fucking page. 3 people have died. It's not going to spread. Will you calm down? Will you calm the fuck down? Whenever you turn up somewhere on a boat, you turn up with on a yacht. You got to stay on your yacht, and then the authorities have got to send people to your yacht. You got to put up a yellow quarantine flag, and you're not allowed to step foot on the foreign soil until the authorities come out to you and they say, okay, yep, you're not dying of the plague. And then they allow you to come into Cuba or France or, I don't know, the Uzbekistan. It's a joke, it's doubly landlocked. But, this is normal. I know it's a bit abnormal that there's people dressed up in, with masks on. But this is what happens when a ship comes in and there's been an outbreak of any fucking disease. We're going to die. And now and that outbreak, that was the one. Outbreak with Diane Morgan and Dustin from Stranger Things. Ruby Princess, that's the one. Owen Cooper is the lad's name. He's done very well, and yet he gets a lot of hate from the Gammons. Yeah, because he's not posh. Because he's just a working class kid from Warrington. And they hate that. They hate it when a not posh kid gets to do something exciting and is actually really good at it. I hate football, especially the World Cup, says Al. That said, I'm looking forward to the fails of it holding it America. I don't think it's going to fail in that respect. I think it's going to be no one travelling there from any other country. I mean, they're not going to make much money out of this. It's going to be a huge fucking loss for them. But I think they'll still fill up the stadiums because there's enough Americans. There's 340 million fucking Americans, isn't there? So a few of them will turn up to go and watch the round ball. They'll probably pay £5 each. What would life be like without US tech? Better, I presume. Well, yeah. Hazmat suits. Well, they're not even full hazmat suits. If you look at the picture, right? Let's have a look at the picture here. Right, I'll go back up. They're just wearing fucking ponchos that you get at Alton Towers before you go on the log flume, and they're just wearing normal masks like that we wore during COVID. I mean, that's it. Do you know what I mean? It's not like they're turning up with the full suit on, do you know what I mean? Like in the bubbles. And they're just like coming in a Zorb bubble. I'm going Zorbing. Coming on. That'd be a great way to get on a ship, wouldn't it? Because it floats, so you'd be able to like run in the Zorb and then get to the ship and then come out and you'd be like the boy in the bubble. But yes, now it's not the fact he's working class, Graham. It's the fact that he is a working class. The fact he has the wrong skin tone. The Gammons think it's only non-white boys who stab girls. Yeah. It's only non-white boys who get sucked into the toxic manosphere. Yeah, non-white boys like, I don't know, all the people who run the toxic manosphere. Starmer faces fight for his survival as threat of leadership challenge mounts. PM to deliver last chance speech, which we just watched. Rayner calls for switch to the left, which Starmer sort of said, we're going to be more Labour, so that means more lefty. Broad dissent in Labour's ranks. The ranks are rank. The peasants are revolting. PIMCO warns war could trigger rate rises. Fucking geniuses. As US voters sour on economy, US Federal Reserve may need to raise interest rates because of the fallout from Donald Trump's war in Iran. A leading investor has warned, and as a majority of American voters polled by the FT said they disapproved of the US president's handling of the war and the economy. So there you go. Greed and rivalry laid bare in trial for OpenAI's future. The trial in which Elon Musk threatened to make OpenAI chief Sam Altman and President Greg Brockman, the most hated men in America, is drawing to a fiery close. Musk seeks to prove they conspired to steal a charity, but after 2 weeks and clashes that will decide the $852 billion group's future, all three emerge with damaged reputations. A trail of emails and texts lay bare the avarice and power struggles at the startup's early days. Like Trump is. It turns out that Musk is a twat. And Sam Altman is a twat. as well. Both twatty twats, the twattiest twats who ever twatted. Here we have US tariffs cost European car makers €8 billion per year. Statements by Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Stellantis, and Volvo cars suggest they have paid €8 billion in tariffs since Donald Trump increased import duties, with the industry braced for an escalation of a trade war. Anger offered to Farage. Organisers of a march against anti-Semitism have defended their decision to invite VFUC leader Nigel Farage while excluding Zach Polanski, the Jewish head of the Green Party. So there's a march against anti-Semitism, and they allowed an anti-Semite who made jokes about the Holocaust, who made hissing noises, like because he thought that sounded like the gas being released to murdered Jewish men, women, and children in the death camps during the Holocaust. Yeah, that was funny. Probably not the noise it made, actually, because it was Zyklon B, so it would have been dumping a powder into the room effectively rather than... Anyway, but we're not going to go into that. Look, Farage got to go. Famed anti-Semite gets to go to an anti-Semitism march. But a Jewish person doesn't. Palantir given data access. NHS England has granted external staff from companies including Palantir unlimited access to identifiable patient data. There you go. That's great news. They're hidden away there. That should be the front page news. That should be the banner headline. Not 4 people sitting in fucking plastic ponchos on a fucking boat. Berlin wants tomahawks. China exports rebound. The pace of export growth from the world's factory floor recovered to 14.1% last month. That's nice for them. Helsing's $1.2 billion fund goal. So this is Van Helsing, the famous professor who hunts vampires. The German defense technology group, backed by tech billionaire David Eck, is set to raise funding to a valuation of $18 billion, cementing its status as one of Europe's most valuable startups. The New York Stock Exchange bans private club. The world's biggest exchange plans to open a private members club in a renovated vault on Wall Street. Okay, cool. Front page news. I think that Palantir story is fucking terrifying. Unfettered access to your medical fucking records given to Palantir, the company that gave that 22-point manifesto, the company that the fascist manifesto, the company run by Peter Thiel, who thinks the Antichrist is coming, or he thinks the Antichrist is Greta Thunberg or some such shite, and the company that is running this country by literally the grandson of literally the most famous fascist in British history, Oswald Mosley. Wow. Wowzers trousers. The company that is literally named after the evil seeing orbs from Lord of the Rings. The Institute for Public Policy Research, the IPPR, has published a paper calling for a rent double lock, which would link rent increases to wages or inflation, depending on which is lower. I like that. Ooh, I like that. Oh yeah, I like that. Oh yeah, keep giving me this. Keep giving me this news that landlords aren't getting as much money as they used to, because it's not a proper job. Unlike this, which is totally a proper job. By the way, Super Chats are still open if you want to drop some money in. What's with the ad avalanche today? Oh, there's lots of ads. Ooh, sorry about that. I will check, because sometimes I've got a template set up for these live shows, but sometimes they like to fuck with us. You know, they like to fuck with us. Why is there no? What's with the lack of oh, for God's sake. They've made it so you've got to kind of like expand the page in order to get to the edit. Right. Oh no. There should be a thumbnail. Let's have a look. Monetization. Mid-roll ads. Manual. So I have to literally put the ads on. I didn't put any ads on. You shouldn't be seeing ads. It keeps saying every time it goes, this goes, now would be a good time to add adverts. And I go, nope. They pop up ads. They pop up ads over the chat, Graham. Oh, for fuck's sake. I've got it set not to do that. This is really fucking annoying. Because like it It's the ads we're getting. I will have a look into. So you've got ads coming over the chat. Ads in the chat. Okay, I'll have a look. And see if I can deactivate that. It's OnlyFans and chat debate. Yeah, better than OnlyFans. They pop up over the chat. That's really fucking. So you set it so you say, I don't want any ads coming on my chat, to actually take you off this live for 30 seconds where you're quickly pressing the skip button. I've got that turned off, but because I've got monetization turned on so I can get super chats, you're getting adverts in the fucking. God, talk about being rammed down your throat. You know that Black Mirror episode? There's two of them that spring to mind. The one where you got to get 16 million credits or whatever it is. And you've got to watch the adverts, and they know if you've got your eyes closed, you've got to watch the adverts to get more credit. And the other one, the really disturbing one, the latest season of Black Mirror, where the woman's brain implant to keep her alive starts firing adverts out at everyone that she meets. And in order to keep her alive, they have to keep paying more and more for her for a subscription to the service. Otherwise, she'd just say adverts. She's not in control of her own brain anymore. Yeah. They do remind me if I needed a new radiator. Not really a thing here. It says £1. It says £1.50. Only on my phone. I'm never buying anything from ads that annoy me. So all pop-up ads. Yeah, I make a point of not buying. Like, I won't get Domino's pizzas anymore because every time I went on a fucking video on YouTube, it popped up with a Domino's ad. So much so that I had to tell it to stop selling me Domino's ads. I went to my ads choices and specifically said, I do not want Domino's ads coming up. And do you know what came up? Fucking Domino's ads. And I'm like, fuck those bastards. And I've not bought a single pizza from Domino's since. I haven't. I just said, yeah, you've advertised me into annoying, repetitive bullshit. I hate your little jingle. I hate everything about you. Go fuck yourself. Neuralink, that's the one. I have a wood pigeon perched in the tree by my living room window, giving me evil looks. Says Chrissy. Woo, woo. I think it's forced ads. I don't want to force ads on you. God damn it! We're supposed to be. The joke is that if I look into my YouTube Studio app on my phone, which is different from the YouTube Studio app on your laptop, which actually allows you to edit videos, you can't actually do that. If I look into my analytics, right? So last month, for instance, come on, sometime today. Look at revenue and then look at watch page ads. Okay, so for last month, right, for all the views that I had, I got £3.14 for each of the 1,000 views I got on my videos, and I usually get about 1,000 views per video. I got £161 last month. That was my estimated revenue. You can see that there on my phone. I'll share it with you. Sorry, it's out of focus. But anyway, it says £161. So I'll leave it on just for the adverts at the start and adverts at the end. Yeah, I couldn't live off that, obviously, so that's why I always push for super chats, because that's how I actually pay the fucking rent. But yeah, it is just insane that is like all you get for making. Last month I probably would have made 50, 60 live videos, each of which are at least an hour long, usually 2 hours. But yeah, it's a lot of work for fuck all money if you're completely relying on ad revenue, which I don't. So it's particularly irritating that I've made the decision to not rely on ad revenue so we can have our little bit of the YouTube platform that's just ours. Yeah, they still put loads of adverts in and annoy everyone. Ho hum. By the way, if anyone wants to join the channel, now would be a great time to do it. Just join the channel. It's the best way to support it. There's different membership levels. It can be as little as a couple of quid a month. But one of the things I do like about having members of the channel, and there's going to be added perks for members coming very soon, where we're doing a show each week where you get to join in with the show. So you'll get access to the Zoom link that I normally put out when we do like the Sunday Night Social or something, you'll get access to that Zoom link if you are a member of the channel. So think about joining if you would, which is good. Karma donation, Reagan's lost, Graham's gain. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Indy Tuck Mel. But don't take things from Reagan. Regan even. In fact, I think Regan's probably started his stream now. So what I'll do is, because I'm feeling for that 27 Swedish krona, I will, because you know I'm just full of love and life like this. I will find Regan's video, and if you keep watching this one, we'll do a raid. So we can all raid Regan's video together. If I got that set up now, unless Regan's decided not to do a show today. But I'm going to find that out in a moment. Go to customization, go to redirect ads, there you go. Oh no, that's good evening. Oh God. Oh no, you press cancel and it gets rid of everything. Oh man, I pressed all the right things in the right order and jumped at the right thing and shot Bowser and oh no, okay, no, on holiday by the looks of things. There's nothing. Good morning with Reagan Elite. 19th. The 19th. Is it the 19th? No, it's the 11th. 15th, 14th, episode 16. It's live. No, that's someone else. Reform Talk, episode 2. Nope, can't find it. So we're not going over there. Sorry. But where you can go after this is go and, I don't know, brush your teeth, have some breakfast, have some brunch. It's a bit late now for breakfast, isn't it? Have some brunch, have some 11s. Have some second breakfast, Gandalf. And get your ass back here for 1 o'clock because I'm going to be here with Phil Morehouse and we're going to be going through what Starmer just said and also the King's Speech, which is on Wednesday, and we'll be doing a watch party for the King's Speech on Wednesday. So, you know, don't suffer alone, suffer with me. We can all suffer together. Reagan Elite is on holiday, Graham. Oh, wish I knew that before. I just clicked on a bunch of things to try and make the thing work. Damn it. What you need is an AI assistant. You could say, AI assistant, make everyone watching this go over to Reagan Elite's channel, and AI assistant could say, I can't do that, Dave. And I'll say, well, first of all, my name's not Dave, and why can't you do it? Because Reagan's on holiday today. Vegan. I keep saying Reagan. Thanks again to everyone. Have a good morning and be kind to yourself and each other. Oh, that's really sweet, Des. That's really sweet. Oh, another brilliant ad. That one had Bring on the Trumpets. I can't believe you're getting so many ads. I'm sorry about that. That really sucks. Oh, well. At least it's not stopping me from talking, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to go now. So enjoy the ad that you get probably halfway through the closing credits. And until 1 o'clock today, I'll say thank you so much for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye. Bye.